A human blocked the plasma blade barehanded. The galaxy realized their myths were true. The Zephyrian combat arena fell silent as the impossible happened before 10,000 eyes. Commander Vexthul raised his plasma blade higher, its superheated eye edge humming with deadly energy that could slice through reinforced titanium like paper. Across from him, the human stood empty-handed, wearing nothing but standard-issue clothing and an expression of grim determination. "You mock our sacred combat. Rituals alien," Vexthul hissed through his translator, his forearms flexing with practiced precision. "Face death with at least the dignity of proper weapons." The human, Marcus Chen, according to the registration files, simply shook his head. "I don't need weapons for this." What happened next would be replayed across every news network in the galaxy within the hour. Vexthul lunged forward with the fluid grace of a species bred for warfare, his plasma blade cutting a brilliant arc through the arena's atmosphere. The strike was perfect, a diagonal slash that would cleave the human from shoulder to hip. Even the arena's energy shields wouldn't activate fast enough to prevent what should have been instant death. Marcus moved, not away from the blade, but toward it. His bare hand shot up and caught the plasma edge in his palm. The weapon's energy field, capable of maintaining temperatures exceeding 15,000 degrees, met human flesh and bone, and stopped. The silence stretched for 3 heartbeats before the arena erupted in chaos. In the VIP section, Ambassador Kelthera of the Galactic Council dropped her ceremonial staff. Her pale blue skin had turned an even whiter shade as she processed what her own eyes had witnessed. "Impossible," she whispered in her native tongue, then louder in Galactic Standard. "The physics, the biology, it cannot be." Down in the arena, Vexthul stared at his weapon in horror. The plasma blade flickered and sparked where it met the human's palm, its energy field destabilizing against something it couldn't cut through. Marcus's hand showed no signs of injury, no burns, no cuts, not even redness where temperatures that should have vaporized organic matter instantly made contact with his skin. "The old stories," someone gasped from the crowd. The voice belonged to Elder Zarqueth, a historian from the Centauri Collective. "The myths from the Void Wars. They said humans could—" Silence. Ambassador Kelthera's voice cracked like a whip across the arena's comm system. But it was too late. The words had been spoken, and 10,000 beings now remembered the legends. Their species had dismissed as impossible fiction. Marcus stepped forward, still holding the plasma blade in his bare hand. With casual pressure, he began to bend the weapon's metal core. The superalloy, designed to withstand the stress of containing a miniature star's worth of energy, groaned and twisted under his grip. "You want to know why humans don't use your technology?" Marcus asked, his voice carrying clearly in the stunned silence. "Why we prefer kinetic weapons and chemical propellants? Why our ships seem primitive compared to yours?" He released the ruined weapon, letting it clatter to the arena floor in pieces. "Because we don't need it." In the stands, Dr. Yith Mora, the galaxy's leading expert on xenobiology, frantically activated her recording devices. Her tentacles trembled as she spoke into her communicator. "Emergency transmission to the Science Directorate. Classification, Omega Priority. The human baseline readings. They're not equipment malfunctions. They're real." The myths spoke of a species that had evolved not on a garden world under a gentle star, but in the crucible of a planet that actively tried to kill its inhabitants every day. A world where the gravity was crushing, the atmosphere corrosive, the weather violent, beyond comprehension. They told of beings who had learned to hunt creatures that dwarfed starships, who had mastered fire when their planet's surface regularly reached temperatures that would melt most known metals. The galaxy had laughed at these stories when humanity first made contact 50 years ago. Humans seemed so small, so fragile, so unremarkable. Their technology was primitive, their ships slow, their weapons crude. When they requested permission to participate in the gladiatorial games that had become the galaxy's premier sporting event, most species saw it as an amusing diversion. Now, as Marcus Chen stood in the center of the arena having just destroyed the most advanced personal weapon in known space with his bare hands, The galaxy realized they had been living in the equivalent of a nature preserve. My readings show his core temperature hasn't even elevated, Dr. Ythmora reported, her voice barely controlled. His heart rate is actually decreasing. What we just witnessed, for his physiology, this was relaxing. Ambassador Kelthera activated her emergency beacon. Within moments, she was connected to the Galactic Council's emergency session chamber. Honored counselors, she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to report. I recommend we immediately reclassify humanity's threat assessment. From what level? Came the response. From protected species to whatever classification we use for forces of nature. On the arena floor, Vexthul had dropped to his knees in the traditional Zephyrian gesture of absolute surrender. Around the stadium, beings from 100 different worlds sat in stunned silence as they processed the implications. Humanity had been patient with them, gentle even. They had played along with the galaxy's rules, used weapons they didn't need, followed restrictions that were meaningless to them. They had allowed themselves to be seen as the newest, weakest member of galactic civilization. But the myths were true. Every impossible story from the Void Wars, every tale of humans doing things that violated known physics, every legend that had been dismissed as propaganda, all of it was real. Marcus Chen looked up at the VIP section and nodded respectfully to Ambassador Kelthera. Then he walked toward the arena exit, leaving behind a weapon that had been reduced to scrap metal and a galaxy that would never look at humanity the same way again. In her secure chamber, Ambassador Kelthera began composing what would become known as the Chen Incident Report. Her final line would be quoted in history books for millennia to come. Recommendation: we must reconsider our entire understanding of what constitutes a death world and the beings it produces. What we have called humanity's homeworld may not be a planet at all, but rather a crucible designed by the universe itself to forge something beyond our current comprehension of biological possibility. The galaxy had spent 50 years believing humans were just like them. They were about to learn how wrong they had been.